Picture this. Silicon Valley's most expensive consultants, MIT graduates with decades of experience, and a team of brilliant minds working around the clock for 3 straight weeks, millions of dollars in fees, endless strategy sessions, emergency meetings that stretched into the early morning hours. All of them stumped by a single line of code. One tiny glitch in an encryption algorithm that was about to cost a Fortune 500 company their biggest contract ever. A billion-dollar merger that would make or break their future. The deadline was tomorrow. The pressure was crushing. And after exhausting every option, calling in every favor, and burning through their entire emergency budget, they were still stuck. But sometimes, genius doesn't announce itself with credentials or corner offices. Sometimes, it doesn't even have a seat at the table. Sometimes it's 12 years old, clutching a backpack full of math homework, waiting quietly in the corner while her mother empties trash cans that same brilliant minds couldn't think outside of. And then, the janitor's daughter, who wasn't even supposed to be there, looked up, grabbed a marker, and solved it in seconds. This is the story of Maya Washington, the girl who saved a billion-dollar company with a single equation, and the CEO who was smart enough to recognize that the most valuable asset in his building wasn't the technology or the patents. It was the mind he'd been overlooking every single night. This is Hopeful Horizon. The 42nd floor of the Meridian Tower buzzed with tension as CEO Marcus Caldwell paced before 3 massive whiteboards covered in a chaotic mess of equations, code fragments, and crossed-out calculations. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the mahogany conference table where his senior development team sat in frustrated silence. "We've been at this for 3 weeks, Caldwell said, his voice tight with barely controlled stress. The Yamamoto Industries merger depends on this security patch being flawless. If we can't solve this vulnerability, they walk away with their billion-dollar contract." Senior developer Rebecca Chen rubbed her temples. "The encryption algorithm keeps failing at the 3rd authentication layer. We've tried 17 different approaches. The consultants from Silicon Valley cost us $2 million and gave us nothing," added CTO James Morrison, gesturing at the whiteboard. "McKinsey's cybersecurity team spent a week here and left us with more questions than answers." Caldwell stopped pacing and stared at the incomprehensible maze of code. 3 of the industry's brightest minds, unlimited resources, and the best technology money could buy, and they were stuck. The merger deadline was tomorrow at 9 a.m. If they couldn't present a working solution, Yamamoto would sign with their competitor instead. "We're missing something obvious," Caldwell muttered. "It has to be simple. The best solutions always are." But as the clock ticked toward 8 p.m., that simple solution remained frustratingly out of reach. The elevator chimed softly as Angela Washington stepped onto the executive floor, her cleaning cart squeaking slightly as she navigated the polished corridors. At 38, she'd been working the night shift at Meridian Corp for 4 years, invisible to the executives who stayed late and barely acknowledged her presence. Tonight was different, though. Her usual babysitter had canceled last minute, and Angela couldn't afford to miss work. Trailing behind her, clutching a worn backpack covered in math equation stickers, was her 12-year-old daughter, Maya. "I'm sorry about this, baby," Angela whispered as they approached the executive wing. "Mrs. Patterson got sick, and I couldn't find anyone else. You just sit quiet in the break room and do your homework, okay?" Maya nodded, her bright eyes taking in the impressive office space. She'd heard her mother talk about the important people who worked here, but she'd never seen their world up close. The walls were lined with awards, patents, and photographs of handshakes with world leaders. "Can I finish my calculus problems?" Maya asked, pulling out a notebook filled with equations she'd been working on. At 12, she was already taking high school math through an online program her mother had scrimped and saved to afford. "Of course, sweetheart. Just remember, stay quiet and don't touch anything," Maya finished with a smile. "I know, Mom." Angela headed toward the conference room to begin cleaning, while Maya settled into a chair in the adjacent break room, her notebook open to a page of complex differential equations she'd been puzzling over. Maya tried to focus on her homework, but the muffled voices from the conference room kept drawing her attention. She could hear frustration in the adults' voices, the same tone her mother used when the bills didn't add up at the end of the month. Curiosity got the better of her. She peeked around the corner and saw her mother cleaning around the edges of the room, while 3 people in expensive suits stared at whiteboards covered in what looked like math. but not the kind she'd seen before. When the adults finally left, grumbling about taking a dinner break, Maya found herself alone with the mysterious equations. She approached the whiteboard, her eyes scanning the complex formulas. "This looks like the encryption stuff I read about online," she murmured to herself. Maya had always been fascinated by codes and puzzles, spending hours on math forums and watching computer science lectures on YouTube. She studied the equations more carefully, her mind automatically organizing the chaos into patterns. There, right in the middle of the second board, was an error so basic it was easy to miss. The algorithm was trying to process an authentication sequence that created an infinite loop. Without thinking, Maya picked up a marker and made a small correction, changing a single operator and adding a simple conditional statement. Then she wrote a brief explanation in her neat handwriting. "The loop breaks here because you're comparing strings as integers. Try this instead." She stepped back, admiring her work, then quickly capped the marker and hurried back to the break room when she heard footsteps in the hallway. CTO James Morrison walked into the conference room to grab his briefcase, already dreading another sleepless night of troubleshooting. He glanced at the whiteboard and froze. There, in childlike handwriting, was the solution they'd been searching for. The fix was elegant, simple, and, he ran the logic in his head, absolutely correct. "What the hell?" he whispered, staring at the board. Morrison's heart pounded as he pulled out his phone and called Caldwell. "Marcus, you need to get back here, now." "James, I'm trying to eat dinner and think, someone solved it. The encryption problem, it's solved." Within 10 minutes, Caldwell was back in the conference room, staring at the whiteboard in disbelief. Rebecca Chen arrived moments later, her laptop already open to test the proposed solution. "This is impossible," Caldwell said. "Who was in here?" "Just the cleaning crew," Morrison replied. "But Marcus, look at this handwriting. This was written by a child." Angela appeared in the doorway, her face pale with terror. She'd heard the executive's return and saw Maya's addition to the whiteboard. "I'm so sorry, sir," Angela stammered. "My daughter, she didn't mean any harm. She loves math, and she must have—" "Where is she?" Caldwell interrupted, his voice intense but not angry. Maya emerged from behind her mother, her backpack clutched tightly against her chest. "I'm sorry I wrote on your board," she said in a small voice. "I just saw the mistake and I thought—" "Rebecca," Caldwell said quietly, "test it, now." Rebecca's fingers flew across her keyboard as she implemented Maya's correction. The room held its breath as the security algorithm ran through its paces. Green lights flashed across her screen. "It works," Rebecca whispered. "It actually works. The authentication sequence is clean, the encryption is stable, and the processing time is 60% faster than our original design." Caldwell looked at Maya, his eyes wide with amazement. "How old are you?" 12, Maya replied, her voice barely audible. "And you understand encryption algorithms?" Maya nodded shyly. "I like puzzles, and I watch a lot of computer science videos online. MIT has free lectures." Angela stepped forward protectively. "Sir, I promise this won't happen again. I'll find other childcare arrangements." "No," Caldwell said firmly. "Don't apologize. Your daughter just saved this company." The next morning, Angela sat nervously in CEO Marcus Caldwell's office, Maya beside her in the leather chair that seemed to swallow her small frame. The merger presentation had gone flawlessly, and Yamamoto Industries had signed the billion-dollar contract. "Angela," Caldwell began, "how long have you been working here?" 4 years, sir. I've never had any complaints." "That's not why I'm asking," Caldwell smiled. "I want to know about Maya. Tell me about her education." Angela's hands twisted in her lap. "She's always been special with numbers. Taught herself to read when she was 3, finished elementary math by age 8. I work extra shifts to pay for her online courses, but it's hard to—" "What if it wasn't hard anymore?" Caldwell interrupted. "What if Maya could attend the best STEM academy in the state, with full tuition, room and board covered?" Maya's eyes went wide. "The Davidson Academy?" "That's for gifted kids. I looked at their website, but—" "But what?" Caldwell asked gently. "But kids like me don't get to go there," Maya said quietly. Caldwell leaned forward, Maya, yesterday you solved a problem that stumped MIT graduates and cost us millions in consultant fees. You did it in minutes by yourself, with no pressure and no reward. That's not just intelligence, that's genius. He turned to Angela. I'm also offering you a position as our facilities manager, with a salary that will support your family comfortably. Maya will have access to our company's education fund, summer internships, and when she's ready, a full scholarship to any university she chooses. Angela's eyes filled with tears. Sir, I don't understand. Why would you do this? Because, Caldwell said, standing up and walking to the window that overlooked the city, I just learned that we've been wasting money on overpriced consultants while the real talent was right here, emptying our trash cans and staying invisible. Maya, if you can solve billion-dollar problems at 12, imagine what you'll do at 22. He turned back to face them. I told my board this morning that we're starting a new initiative. We're going to find more kids like Maya, brilliant minds hidden in plain sight. We're going to invest in potential, not just pedigree. Maya looked at her mother, who was crying and nodding. Does this mean I can take advanced calculus? Caldwell laughed. Maya, I think you're going to be teaching advanced calculus before you're done. Maya didn't walk into that boardroom looking for recognition. She wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. She just saw a puzzle that needed solving, and her mind, that brilliant, curious, unstoppable mind, couldn't help but find the answer. Her mother, Angela, didn't expect gratitude when she brought her daughter to work that night. She was just a single mom doing whatever it took to keep her job and keep her daughter safe. She'd apologized for Maya's presence, worried that her child might be seen as a disruption, a problem to be managed. But that night, one line of code did more than save $1 billion. It shattered every assumption about where genius lives, what it looks like, and who gets to change the world. It proved that brilliance doesn't care about your zip code, your parents' income, or whether you can afford the right schools. It doesn't need permission or validation. It just needs opportunity. Maya's story reminds us that in a world obsessed with credentials and connections, the next great breakthrough might come from the most unlikely source. The person who solves tomorrow's biggest problem might be stocking shelves, cleaning offices, or sitting quietly in the corner, invisible to everyone who thinks they know what genius looks like. How many Maya Washingtons are out there right now? How many brilliant minds are going unnoticed because they don't fit our narrow definition of potential? How many game-changing ideas are locked away in the minds of people we've trained ourselves not to see? The real question isn't whether Maya deserved that opportunity, it's whether we're brave enough to look beyond our assumptions and find the hidden genius in our own communities. If this story opened your eyes to the possibility that extraordinary potential might be hiding in plain sight, drop a comment with where you're watching from. Share this story with someone who needs to be reminded that their background doesn't determine their future. Don't forget to subscribe to Hopeful Horizon for more stories that challenge everything you think you know about success, potential, and the power of recognizing brilliance wherever it emerges. Until next time, stay humble, stay curious, and remember, the smartest person in the room might not even have a seat at the table yet, but when they do, they just might change everything. This is Hopeful Horizon, signing off.